How do you do, J-Pod crew? It's your Naughty Body Potty here, and today we are reviewing Masters of the Universe Revelation Part 2. Now, if you're not aware, I did do a Part 1 where I actually did a spoiler-free review and then a breakdown of every single Easter egg. So if you haven't seen that, I will put a card in the corner of this screen, or I'll put a link in the description or at the end of this video as well. Now, keep in mind that I'm not going to go into every single Easter egg when we get to breakdown, because there's some that will appear in that first step of the video. So I feel I really don't need to go back on those. Just a couple of them, because they might have been a little bit crucial characters and they're not really main characters, so a lot of people aren't aware of them. Now, before I go into my spoiler review, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done already. I appreciate it. It really helps with the channel, and hit that like button as well. Alright, now I want to go into actual spoiler-free review of what I think. And here's the thing. My last episode, I feel like there's a lot of controversy because everyone hated it, and I was actually one of the few that liked it. I understand the whole change to do the female empowerment really bothers people, but I understand why they're doing that, because it opens up a new world of characters and a new world where it had more of an explanation, I would say, in these this most recent Part 2 series of episodes. And that's the reason why I kind of like what they did. It's a change, and keep in mind, the original cartoon doesn't have much plot points outside of the main thing that you know as a kid. It's nothing deep-rooted, nothing very adult-oriented, and maybe a lot of fans like that, and I understand. That's what made me love the cartoon, the toys, and the cartoon, but that was simplicity. I'm an adult now. I want more complex storylines, and this does give me that complex storyline, even though the female empowerment may seem like it's very overpowered. I'm okay with that, and that's because they want to make sure to show that we've already seen He-Man and Skeletor. We know that strength. We now have the empowerment of both Evelyn and Teela, so now let's go ahead and broaden that even more and make something else where we can get back to the roots of He-Man and show that you can have the world have two physical powers under two different sexes, however you may look at it. So you may be asking, well, what do you think? I enjoyed the heck out of it. Here's the thing. This one went by quicker to me, maybe because I enjoyed it more, or maybe because there wasn't much Easter eggs as much as the other one, but the Easter eggs that were in this were way more deep-rooted and deep cuts that I can't wait to get to them with you, because you'll get a better understanding. When it comes to the actual plot point, yeah, I understood it. It was basically leading into something special that I may not have seen in the first part, but I'm happy that it did. And again, when I get to the Easter eggs, we'll go into those plot points as well. So what's my score? Well, I'm actually kind of giving it the same score I did before, and I know people are going to be hating on me for that, but I really enjoy Revelation. I like what they do with it, and I actually like that Revelation kind of uses some of the grounding formats of what the comic book did. Yes, there was a Revelation comic book, if you weren't aware. So, with that being said, I am giving this a score of 8 out of 10. Again, I enjoyed the heck out of it. It is not a 10 out of 10, but it is a really enjoyable ride, and it is much better in my eyes than the old cartoon as far as when I'm being an adult. I'm going to always love the old cartoon, but it's very simplistic in its design. And we got to see some fan favorites, especially at the end, which I will get into spoiler review. I freaked out. I'm literally going to probably take a copyright just because I want to show you guys so badly that scene. And I wish I could actually show me getting excited, because I forgot to record that. And I did record that, but my God, was I hyped when I saw it that I had to record that scene just so you guys can see it as well. With that being said, I hope you guys were happy with it as well. I felt the plot line was very deep-rooted in female empowerment, but I'm okay with that. And again, we got so many different versions of what we would see as far as some of these characters that I was very happy with seeing those versions. And we'll be getting into that as well when it comes to the spoiler part. So with that being said, I want to go into the full breakdown of the Easter eggs. So I want to go ahead and put a spoiler alert on the screen right now. We're going into heavy spoilers for every single episode.
You serious?
And now we are in spoiler territory, and we are going to be going by episode. There's only 5 episodes, and I know my last spoiler review or spoiler video, I actually went into a lot of detail with a lot of characters, and some of those characters do resurface in this episode, but I don't go into detail with them, and that's because I want to go into the new Easter eggs. So if you want to see those characters, make sure you check out my first video on part 1. And with that being said, let's go to episode 1, where we do see that Skeletor does have control over everything, and he does have the sword, and he does turn Evelyn into the new sorceress. Now, of course, in this episode, Adam's still able to turn to He-Man, but it's a version called Savage He-Man. Now, if you remember in the last episode, I showed you a character named Wondar, and it was released part of the Master Universe Classic toy line, and is a repaint or variant of He-Man with brown hair and a brown loincloth. They called him Wondar, and then they nicknamed him Savage He-Man. But then, if you saw in the last episode, Wondar, and you can see here, Wondar appears in there, and I did say that that was the Savage He-Man. Well, unfortunately, that's a little bit different. That is still Wondar, but what they did was they separated Wondar and Savage He-Man into two characters. And so that's something that I wanted to bring up here, since he does actually turn into Savage He-Man at the end of this episode. So what you're seeing here is actually Savage He-Man, but then when he has the breastplate on, it's basically Wondar. I know it's confusing. It's kind of odd to put it in that perspective, but it's true. That's how they do the whole Wondar Savage He-Man separation. So, of course, that's basically what happens in the first episode. And we also do see in this episode that Fisto and Clamptrap does come back, but they're transformed into Skeletor's minions as well. And, of course, I hope they make those action figures. But either way, those are, something we can actually go into at another point, I guess. But I really want to get into episode 2. The Easter eggs in there are amazing. Next, we go into episode 2. And now, if you remember, Evil Lynn's got a bunch of minions that she actually goes through. And there's going to be one special one, so I'm going to skip it. But if you see on screen, we're going to go in order from the back row to the front row of each one of these characters. So the first one that's the closest to the camera is Webstore. And Webstore is just one of those old action figure characters that they made. And that is actually part of something, part of the old series, I should say. Next, we have Goatman right beside him in the red. Now, Goatman, I don't remember too much, but I had to do some research, and I found out where he was. But what really shocks me is actually the next character, and I'm going to actually skip over it. So the third one, the one right beside Goatman that looks real small, I'm actually going to go into him in just a second. But let's go to the next row, and you see the purple-looking character that's actually closest to the screen. That's Spygor, you see here. Then we have Clawful, that's right beside him. And then Beastman. Now, Beastman I did bring up in the last episode, so it's not really needed, but I figured since we're going through all the characters, we'll go through that. But now let's go back to this little character you see right here. This little character, it flipped me out when I saw it and everything, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together until later episodes. This is Pig Boy. Now, if you're wondering who's Pig Boy, Pig Boy was actually a character that was part of a contest where one lucky kid back in the 80s was chosen to be in the Masters of the Universe movie through a contest. And thus the winner, 3rd grader Richard Sponser, I know I'm messing up name, ending up appearing in heavy makeup as the character of Pig Boy and is one beast shining moment of glory in this movie. So basically what happens is he's holding Skeletor's staff, and Skeletor ends up taking it from his hands, and that's basically his scene. Honestly, let's show you the scene. Here it is. And that's it. That was the scene that the kid got. But that's Pig Boy, and we actually do get to see Pig Boy in action later on in this episode, which I will briefly go back to that when it comes to it. Next, we have Manticore in the forest. Now, Manticore actually appeared in the original cartoon and is actually a beast based in lore, like real lore. So, Manticore isn't something really new, but it never was turned into an action figure. So, that's basically the briefest moment we get to see Manticore until Savage He-Man rips him apart, which pretty savage. Anyway, next we have Orlax of Primaria with Man-at-Arms in his cell. Now, Orlax of Primaria was a one-eyed, multi-tentacle creature that appeared in the Masters of the Universe Revelation prequel comic book series, and this was published by Dark Horse Comics. So if you remember earlier, I did state that there was a comic book. This is actually one of the characters that appeared in that comic book and is now in the episode, and we see him later, of course, in the sewers. And then we end this episode with the Point Dread location. Now, the Point Dread location was actually one location that was actually a toy that actually had a vehicle on the top that we're going to go into more detail with that, but it's called the Talon Fighter, and you actually see the Queen driving the Talon Fighter later on, but we will get into that much later when we get to that episode. But this is the Point Dread location, and it's actually a much smaller location in the action figure line, I should put it that way, but it's still cool to see it here. Next, we get to episode 3. Now, episode 3 doesn't really have any Easter eggs. The only thing I can state is that when Skeletor comes to pick up Evil Lynn, or Lynn, when she's trapped in that alleyway, we do see a red version of Skeletor where he has a red outline. I don't know if this is a version I'm just not aware of. I think it's based off one of the old cartoons, but I couldn't find it. But I do know that there is a red and purple variant called the Dragon Blaster Skeletor, which basically had this toy that would go on, this armor that was going on his back and have a dragon on his back, and you would fill it up with water and then squeeze its head and it would shoot water out of its mouth. It was a really cool toy, but I don't think this is the Dragon Blaster Skeletor, but honestly it gave me a reason to mention the toy, especially since really there's no Easter eggs outside of Evil Lynn turns into the Master of the Universe. That's it. There's really nothing here, so we'll go on to episode 4. Okay, so episode 4 didn't have... Well, actually, no. Episode 4 actually had plenty of Easter eggs, now I think about it. But we do finally see Panther with Skeletor in this episode, and he finally does ride Panther. And we do also get to briefly see Cringer and Panther fight together, which you never got to see in the old cartoon. But the big Easter eggs would be the fight in the sewer. Now, if you remember, I said something about Pig Boy. So Pig Boy does appear in here, but we do also see another character from the Masters of the Universe movie, and that is Blade that you see here. Blade actually did end up getting his own action figure eventually in the toy line, but of course Blade first appeared actually in the movie, was never ever a character in actual cartoon. So it's really cool for them for me to see them redesign Blade from the Masters of the Universe movie into this. So honestly, they've so far had 2 characters, Pig Boy and Blade, from the movies, and they are now, I guess, canon of Masters of the Universe. It depends if you count Revelation as canon anyway. But anyway, let's continue. Now, as we see people fighting together, you'll notice that the bird people of Avion are flying around. Now, if you're familiar, there's a toy called Stratos. He's the leader of the bird people. And we actually see the bird people flying here with a race of bee people. And of course, Buzz-Off is a humanoid bee that actually commands the race of bee people from the Mystic Mountains. Both Stratos and Buzz-Off were figures that they actually made. And then, of course, they basically, you can just get duplicates of the figure and make it the main character, and then, of course, the minions or the characters that fight along with the leader. So that's pretty much how they did those kind of things. The leader was also looked exactly the same as the squads. It's really weird. And then, of course, we do see an Aquatican here. And if you remember, the Aquaticans are the sea creatures that are led by Merman that you see in part 1. But now they're siding with the good guys in this episode. So we do see Aquaticans, we do see the bee people, and we do see the bird people. Again, their names were so simplistic when it came to He-Man, but work with what best suits you or your creativity. Anyway, let's go into episode 5. And then we finally get into the last episode. Now, at this point, I'm not really naming the episodes, but this episode's called Comes With Everything You See Here. Now, you may be wondering, why am I bringing up this episode title and not any other ones? Well, that's because of how this is a inside joke. If you don't get what I mean, well, let me show you.
The new Easy Bake Oven and Snack Center comes with everything you see here, light bulb not included.
Okay, you might be wondering, why did they show us an Easy Bake Oven commercial? I couldn't find a He-Man commercial that said what it said in this commercial, but if you notice in the commercial, it says, comes with everything you see here. Back in the 80s, that's something they would say all the time when it came to toys, where they would show you everything that the toy would come with on screen, and then say everything, it comes with everything you see here. I tried to find an old He-Man commercial for toys that said that, and I know it did because I remember this distinctly, but I couldn't find one. So I found this Easy Bake Oven commercial that showed the exact line that I'm referring to, and that's why this episode is called that. We continue on where we actually see the Queen flying in the Talon Fighter I was referring to earlier in episode 2 about the Point Dread location. We do see that she's flying the actual vehicle that the vehicle or the toy line actually had the location and vehicle go with. Also, we do see that Orko becomes what I call Supreme. Yes, Orko becomes the strength or powerful Orko that I've always wanted him to be. Next, we have the one Easter egg. Oh my God, I was waiting for this moment to happen. So much. I'm going to show you the clip and explain to you why this was a big deal. I've been waiting since part 1, since they announced this, for this character to arrive. And he arrived at the end He must be a fan for me. I must not be the only one that loves this character. Let's see him.
All wings form a puppy. I've got a special bomb to drop.
Ram Man? Woohoo! It was hot in that plane.
Ladies and gentlemen, finally, Ram Man. Oh my God, Ram Man. Had to get on camera for this one, guys. I actually didn't get on camera and record this when it actually happened, but when Ram Man came in, I turned into the 7-year-old that was opening his first Castle Grayskull that you saw in the first episode. The moment, okay, Ram Man was a toy that didn't have any movement at all, but what made him great is when you would set him down, he would lock into place. Like basically you would push his legs down, his body down, he would lock into place, you push a little lever, and he would pop up. You can make him ram into anything you want. Ram Man was my favorite toy that it was literally scratched up. I remember my mom had to buy me so many Ram Man toys because I broke them into so many things. I loved Ram Man.
Loose, meet Ram Man.
Ram Man? I've heard lots about you from the storyteller.
Yeah, I'm a pretty famous guy.
I wish I would have recorded my reaction when I saw Ram Man on the screen, but I freaked out. So much so that I'm willing to take a strike or claim or whatever you... And I hope it's not a strike, but hopefully a claim on this video just so I could show you that clip of Ram Man appearing. And of course, you've already seen it. You saw it yourself. But for me, oh my God, I freaked out when I saw Ram Man. This is my favorite Master of the Universe character of all times, right there beside Orko. Any episode that had Ram Man and Orko, I was like a little kid. Well, I was a little kid, but I was... It was a big day for me. Ram Man and Orko are my two favorite characters, and to see a supreme version of Orko and then Ram Man all in the same episode, episode 5 was like the holy grail for me, and I think that's why they made that episode. They knew what the fan favorites were. Because then they ended the episode with the biggest ending. It's like a Marvel ending they did. So basically Skeletor gets trapped by this machine character that I've never heard of, and then suddenly the symbol pops up, the bat symbol for Hordak. Now Hordak is the former mentor of Skeletor and one of the franchise's main villains. Now Skeletor betrayed Hordak and trapped him in another dimension before beginning his own conquest of the planet Eternia, which is where the He-Man and Skeletor story is all set up in. But then Hordak then returned with a vengeance to take over Eternia for himself. And keep in mind that Hordak is actually also part of the She-Ra series, and of course we do eventually see that She-Ra does go into the world of He-Man, and Hordak is there. So Hordak is basically She-Ra's main villain, and also has a history with Skeletor, which means I think this is the setup for a She-Ra He-Man crossover, and Hordak and Skeletor either going to work together or Hordak's just going to take over everything. I can't wait to see that, but at the same time, feels like it's going to be a lot more female empowerment, which I'm okay with, but the other fans are not going to be happy. Honestly, I want to know what you think. Did you enjoy these Easter eggs? Did you enjoy this breakdown? Did you enjoy the episode? I don't mind if you bring any kind of hate to the episode below. Be nice about it if you can, or at least don't be rude, okay? But anyway, guys, I want to thank you for all watching. Again, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I appreciate you all watching. As always, I'm Putty, here to do a review for you, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.